Hello, my name is Baptiste Friscourt. I'm an authorized representative of the Sentinel Center Association that I will present to you for the first time. And I have to admit that it's quite an emotion to be facing such an esteemed audience. And thank you to Professor Kayal and Andreas Muller for the invitation. So the goal of our association is to further and support UAP research. We have various operations that I will be describing during this talk. Please excuse my French accent. We are looking to support and organize data collection operations. I think we all agree that we don't have reliable data points on UAP. The last reliable data points in radar information we have dates back to the Stephenville case. Since then, it's really hard to obtain radar data for UAPs. We are also looking to preserve archives. The first generation of researchers on the topic is dying. Their collection of documents is going to waste. So we stated as a priority to be able to preserve these archives and to numerize them. Then we need to influence the population. Most of the population doesn't even know that the topic exists. So we are trying to publish the most reliable information we can without any paywall, copyright-free, and organizing cultural events to open the discussion with the general public. So the origin of the Sentinel Association dates back to September 2017. My own students asked me what were UFOs. And I have around 500 students per year. I asked all my students if that question was important for them. 90% said yes. At the time, I looked into the literature on the subject, found nothing of value, and told them it was bullshit. 2 months later, the December 2017 articles in the New York Times were published, where we learned that the Department of Defense had a very serious UFO program study. So I had to go back to my students, admit my mistakes, and I swore to them that I would look seriously into the subject. That's why I'm working on that subject since then. It took me 3 years to find reliable piece of information in the true literature on UAP, not the one you find in the library at your corner, but the publication of very, very serious researchers throughout the last 80 years, even before World War II. In 2020, we created Sentinel News to publish articles regarding reliable information. It was the main topic for us because there was a lack of information. In 2021, we contacted everybody we could, with a huge support from Nick Pope, kudos to him, throughout Europe to make a diagnosis about the situation in Europe. What were the institutions, what were the governments that were open to the subject, what were the structure inside the European Union we could contact about it. And then we did the diagnosis. And there was a lack of institutional involvement, a lack of scientific data and even scientific programs, and a lack of public education. Since then, we've tried to fill this gap. In 2024, we created Sentinel Science that tried to educate the public into how to gather reliable points of information regarding UAP sightings. In 2025, Sentinel News company became the Sentinel Center Association. And this year, we also created Sentinel Culture that organizes exhibits and cultural events. The origin of the name is threefold. First, it's an homage to the Sentinel program of the European Space Agency, to always remember that there is a wealth of scientific data that is available, but nobody is looking for UAP data inside these datasets. So inside our scientific endeavors, we always try to find first what data has always existed, but was never looked on. Then you have the Sentinel of Eternity. It's a novel by Arthur C. Clarke that gave 2001 Space Odyssey. I can recommend the lecture. The original is really interesting. And then it's a reference to the North Sentinel Island, an island that has been kept outside of the main civilization, occidentalized civilization, in a kind of reminder that we could be the one that have been ostracized by the rest. It was a thesis defended by Bergson, among others. We are a non-profit association under the very strict French law of July 1st, 1901. We are publicly registered. Our funding comes from YouTube ads, grants, and donations, and is divided between the science and culture departments. The news department is always free. Nothing is paid to the news department. Currently, our spending are at 60% on science and 40% by culture, and are decided by the public. There are 2 bank accounts. Each people can decide to donate either to science or to culture, or to both. We have 6 main operations currently. Science, that are creating observatories dedicated to UAP. News, that I already talked about. A library open to the public, to give them reliable piece of information. Archives, that I already talked about. Tracker, which is a specific software built in-house to collect information published anywhere on Earth. And then culture, that we will see later. Sentinel News publishes in 4 languages, copyright free. We also have 2 YouTube channels, one in English, one in French. We have come subject mainly our defense and science news. Sentinel Culture creates exhibits. We have our own team of artists that allows us to create thematic exhibits. We also organize conferences and workshops. We have our own publishing house based in part on Sentinel News, and we have our own library. Now, interesting part. Sentinel Science is our scientific endeavor. We have 2 main projects: a static observatory where the Sentinel Association is based in France, and a mobile observatory. During the coffee break, I bring the mobile observatory, and I can give you a guided tour with the instruments online. Currently, it's equipped with an all-sky camera Azizuo 662 MC, which is the cheapest and most reliable we could find. We recently added an Aspire 2 with SpyVector and ULOOP, a very basic SDR, software-defined radio. It always has 10 days of supply of water and food and clothing, and we will be adding very shortly a PTZ camera. It's linked to a Synology server through a 5G router transmitter, which will be doubled by Starlink shortly. The addition of the PTZ camera is based on the observation we made on the field last year, where we had a lot of plain light sighting without ADS-B signals. So we need to be able to discriminate what are these objects, and we will require a PTZ camera for that. We will have some scientific archives. So there are scientific UAP publications that exist in peer-reviewed journals, but they aren't collected, they aren't preserved in one place. So that will be one project of Sentinel Science. Then we have the project for the next year. To have a control group for the mobile observatory, we will put a static observatory. I will show you later the different sensors. We will also have a witness report collection system, real-time observation and live mapping. That's something that already exists for tracking of meteor, for example. We could do exactly the same for UAPs. One of the very big parts we want to work on is the use of civilian sensor and networking. We have a large community of around 700 members. 60 of them are scientific and engineers that are working on the science part. and many among the community are willing to put an observatory on their house. That will give us a way of tracking UAP at a much more extensive scale than what we can do alone. Then governmental sensors utilization. France is a very dense country in terms of data collected by the various laboratories and scientific programs. We could use very easily these data sets. We are based in the eastern part of France, at the limits of the highest connectivity to the network and low light pollution. And that is what we want to achieve. So we want to create observatories that could observe both passively and actively in the entire electromagnetic field. We are currently working first on the passive omnidirectional detection because it's a detection where we are invisible. But soon we are currently working on active radar. The mobile observatory will be also linked to smaller stations on the ground that makes possible the triangulation on site of targets we are detecting. We have been working on that part for quite a few months using drones and lights. We launch above the observatory to see if we can triangulate the position and the speed of the objects. This is the best anomaly we have recorded during the test. So the goal of the test wasn't to record anomalies, it was to test the sensor. So we exposed the sensor, recorded everything we could, tried to create artifacts to see what was the limits of the captor. We don't know what is that object. We have two frames. This is the best frame. The most probable explanation is a dark flight, a very cold meteor that is about to touch the ground, but we don't have a really good explanation of what we are seeing. This is the first version of our mobile observatory. We also have a full set of fully mechanic camera, because we know from the literature that these objects can be extremely aggressive on the EM field. So if we take a huge discharge, we still have a way to record what is happening. All recordings are available on a specific YouTube channel, including the one I showed you, candidate 16. We don't even know if they are UAP. It's UAP candidates for us. And this is the latest version of our mobile observatory. So from the first iteration, we listed all the defaults and ordered a specific custom-built vehicle that could fill every requirement we had. It's the only one, as far as we know, that has been ever built from the manufacturer. And it was the only manufacturer that could do it. The idea is to be able to put it anywhere for 10 days without moving and to record everything that is in the environment, including urban environment. That's why we didn't choose an RV, which are terrible in engineering, and aren't discrete at all. It's the smallest vehicle in which we could put everything inside. For now, we use the Azitsuo camera mounted on, I don't know the term, tripod? I'm almost finished. On something. Later, all the instruments will be mounted directly on the roof. The idea is to be operator-centric. As long as we have an operator inside the platform, we can require the Japan to conduct an investigation, which is something that isn't possible if you have just a recording. We just come back from investigation from the ground. We took a spot that was rumored to be very active and position the platform for 10 days. We are currently examining the recordings. And we started to use our SDR. Right now, you have the long rumored 1.6 gigahertz signal that has been popularized by Skinwalker Ranch. We found it on 500 kilometers of the French territory. Sometimes that pulses in it. It only interrupted one time, so we don't know what it comes from, but it's at 90% technological. These are the schematics of the platform. It's entirely solar powered, so you can stay without having to recharge anything. And finally, I would like to conclude on partnerships. So that's the first time our association is publicly presented. We are open to any partnership. We already have informal partnership. I'm on the advisory board of the Society for UAP Studies with many members here. We have informal agreements with GEPAN, which is the national study group on UAPs in France. There are many associations we talk informally. We can now formally talk to these entities, and we are welcoming any partnership. We are here as a support group to help any other groups. Thank you.
And as you may know from reading the papers of the Galileo project and so on, it is a challenge to just build and establish the observational equipment and so on. Do you have a record of that? Did you publish on the equipment, and who are the scientists involved in the team?
I'm currently finalizing, a PhD on UAPs with the University of Burgundy, which will allow me to recruit my own scientific team. We already have scientists inside the team that are advising us discreetly because they don't want to risk their reputation on UAP. And on the science part, we are still at the calibration phase of our detectors. So right now, if we have a detection, we are very confident inside the detection, but we are still trying to search for the limit of detection of what we can extract from the data and from the noise.
I have a question. Can you please elaborate on the 1.6 gigahertz signal that you found? What is this signal? Is this a common thread? Is this?
So it was discovered by a TV show called Skinwalker Ranch, and they claimed that every time that signal appeared, a UAP would appear. So as it was a claim, we wanted to test it. And with other in the association, we bought SDR to look for that signal. And we found that signal, but pretty much every time and everywhere, and not correlated to UAP from our first observation.
Do you know where it comes from?
We can't triangulate for now. We don't have a dense enough network for it.